This interview is part of my interview series for Dougie Stone Radio. And today, in this video, we get to meet and understand what the band Bubye are about, where that name came from, and we review their first single they dropped called Sheets, and they've got some more music planned to be released soon. But anyway, sit back, relax, enjoy this. The great emerging band called Bubye.
Okay, people, another one of my interview series with another amazing emerging band, and I'll let them introduce themselves in a minute because I've not got a Scooby how to pronounce the name about it. So anyway, introduce yourselves.
I'll kick it off. I'm Lewis, and well, basically, I'm 1/3 of Bubye. It's pronounced Bubye. There is a bit of a story behind it, but yeah.
We'll talk about that in a minute. Bubye. I like that. I think Eddie's called it Bubye or something, Boobly or what. But like I said before we started doing the interview, I've noticed a lot of emerging bands currently pick a name because they like it. Oh, let's call ourselves this. And they start produce, you go and see them play at some event and then they go, my name's this. You go and search for them and find a whole different band, which is a mega problem. So before you name a company, a band or anything, check it's not been used before, because in the long term, that's going to cause you a big problem. Right. So what about the rest of the band? Introduce yourself, guys.
Well, my name's Jamie. Again, another third, predominantly a guitar player, but as we'll probably talk about a bit later, we all kind of chop and change really what we play. So predominantly guitar player, but another third.
So you're trans musicians then, are you? You just flow between all sorts of genres.
Yeah, it's quite sort of easy and free flowing, isn't it? It's no kind of set regime that we've got.
Excellent. I like that. And I think we've lost the third member because it says oh no, he's there. Go on then. Yeah, introduce yourself, man.
Right. Yeah, my name's George. Also another third of Bubye, obviously. The last third, most important third.
Exactly.
Yeah, again, similar to Jamie, mostly play guitar, also dabble in piano, but we sort of mix and match between the three of us.
Wonderful.
We're instrument whores, as it were.
Can't beat that. Well, the thing is, there's only three of you. You might need 5 or 6 different things at some point in time. So why not do that with the three of you? It makes more sense, doesn't it?
This is it, yeah. We haven't got to pay anyone else, so it's all right.
Exactly. So you've intimated it, and I am intrigued by the name. Where does the name come from?
I think we'll let George take this one. George has got the background on this one.
So it's not the most amazing story in the world, but there is a video floating.
Before you came on, George, Lewis is bigging it up massively, so it has to be.
Yeah, come on. This is rock and roll, man. This is rock and roll. No wallflowers here. Go on. Go for it.
There's a video floating around on our phones of me heinously drunk after a night out, and I'm trying to wake up one of our friends, Andrew, and he's not waking up. Not in a bad way. He's just very drunk as well.
Yeah.
And, I keep at the end of the video, I go to say goodbye to him to leave him in his bed asleep. And I keep saying, "Bye, Andrew." And from that, we just decided to call it Bubye.
Yeah, we sort of adopted it at the end of every single phone call.
Yeah.
And it's kind of stuck. And as I say, when you're trying to find a kind of name for a project or a group or something, as you said, it's very, very difficult to come up with something completely original. And we thought, let's just go with this then. I mean, it's personal to us, isn't it? So,
I like it. So yours is a bit similar to the Budweiser advert, isn't it? What's up? Yeah. That one. What's up? Yours is Bubye. In fact, you've probably done it already because I need to check your social media, but that would make a little good video, wouldn't it? Bubye.
Oh, that's a good shout.
Yeah, it could be.
I know. I'm not just a media guru for nothing. You know what I mean? But that would be my advice to you: is get everyone doing Bubye, and all that. And that'd be wonderful.
Yeah. Trend going.
Yeah, you could even have that WhatsApp, and you go, oh, that's so 90s. Bubye. There you go.
Yeah.
Might be for you now as well. Do you want me to direct it? There you go. I'll leave that with you. It's the name of a band. Some bands are weird and wonderful, and some are just dead simple, and it's like I say, it's so difficult to find something that's your own. We had the same with the radio station called Dougie Stone Radio. Me and my wife spent nearly 2 days checking what about, we'll call it this. Oh, there's a company called that. Oh, we'll call it that. there's a radio station called that. Oh, this, that, and the other. So on the Sunday morning, I just went, do you know what? I've got a company called Dougie Stone. I've got a bank account, Dougie Stone. I've got a bit of a presence called Dougie Stone. Let's call it Dougie Stone Radio, and off we. Yeah,
that's it.
We didn't want it to. We didn't want to call it that, but that's how it's emerged, and that's how it's ended up because it just made logical sense.
We just ended up sitting and kind of like on Apple Music on Spotify, just coming up with names and then searching them. There's like 4 or 5 different bands coming up that all have already got pretty decent following. It's just you're never ever gonna break through that kind of noise if you haven't got a name that's a little bit unique.
Yeah, almost definitely, and it's great because it's B, so it's AB. It's quite up high in the alphabet, all that sort of stuff. Very clever. I like it.
We'll take that. Yeah.
Yeah, Aardvark could be a good one because it's got 2 A's in it. Right at the top, isn't it? Right at the top of everything, Aardvark. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm just one moment. It must have been the drinking last night. It's done it to me. Set me in a funny place. But yeah, it's brilliant, and we love doing these interviews, and we have shows on the station that promote emerging artists. That's what the station's all about. So it's great to get to know guys and bands as they're starting, or they're just starting through the progression. We can see them evolve. So what we might do in a second is play your track, the track that you've just released, which is pretty cool. We've been playing it. It's quite. I'll tell you what. Before we play it, Jamie, what's this? What's the vibe of this track? Then, what's the story behind it?
So essentially, obviously, as you probably tell, it's really sort of a mellow tune, and when we kind of progress and release a few more, you're going to obviously discover that it's a little bit different to the kind of other stuff that we've been writing. However, we just felt that we all sort of came together. It was the first kind of track that we all kind of wrote together and really, really loved. And kind of lyrically, it has the sort of like, the sort of classic relationship themes about, the us against the world sort of thing, the kind of having that intimacy of, kind of bed sheets, as it were, and kind of forgetting all the world outside, that sort of thing. Yeah. So very sort of classic relationship, type of song. But no, we really like it, really, really proud of it. And I don't think we would have chosen to have anything else come out first. So I think you boys agree, but.
Well, we're going to spin this now, let everyone listen to it, and then we'll come back and we'll have a bit of a chat about it. So here we go. It's Bubye by Sheets by Bubye. Yeah, is that right?
That's the one. That's the one.
No, it's a cocktail, you see. I'm a professional. Here we go. I'll play the track and shut me face. There you go, people. Go and check out Sheets by Bubye. Yeah, there you go. Brilliant. Got it right. Nailed it, guys. Nailed it. Brilliant. Hey, I do like that. I've listened to that a few times now. And it was my wife that saw it on Facebook, and she said, "Have you listened to that track? Have you been playing it?" I'm like, no, I missed it. I saw it, but I missed it. So it was Sandra that put me onto it. And then for you, I had a right go at Luke for not passing it on to me as well. So there you go. So I do like that. Who's the vocalist on that then? Who does the vocals? You?
That's me.
Do you vocals on everything, or is it just that track?
Yeah, so I do. So that's predominantly kind of what I do. Is vocals. I do all the vocals kind of from top to bottom. Try and start out with a melody first, and then build it from there.
Yeah, that's really cool. I really like that. It is mellow. It's slow. It's one of those. You could have that on in. You could have that on in the background and be doing stuff, and it'd be. It's quite nice, and it probably end up on a number of our shows because that's got the right vibe to it.
That'd be great. Yeah. It's a strange one because the music doesn't really move forward too much. But so what we've tried to do to kind of counter that is because it can be quite repetitive. The way of trying to counter that is just build it texturally. So just build in loads of textures and just really try and create the warmth and the kind of the kind of emotive feeling there.
Yeah.
Just something we tried to go for quite a bit.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I get that. But now you've said that, that's the sort of vibe. You do get it, the mellow, the vibe, the chilled out. Yeah, this is nice. And yeah, it's got a story to it. And it just doesn't, not every track has to be progressive and up and down and bells and whistles thrown at it.
That's it, yeah.
Sometimes the stuff that's very simplistic, sorry, I'm not saying music simplistic, but some things that sound simple are not simple. It's not simple. It's not easy to achieve simplicity. It's very, very difficult to achieve that.
Yeah, it's kind of like a stripped back sound, really simple ideas, but just done well.
Yeah, I like that.
That's what we tend to do, to be honest. We tend to have these kind of demos that have all the bells and whistles, and then the thing that takes the amount of time is the kind of refining process.
Yes.
With that one, we just kept on going backwards and backwards and backwards until we kind of felt that it was that kind of slow build texture, as Lewis says, with the kind of vocal harmonies coming in and the kind of little keyboard at the end. It's that process that sort of takes the time, and I think that is the most important, that sort of refining process, as you said.
Yeah, definitely. Most definitely, because I won't try not to repeat myself too much, but simple things are not easy to achieve. Something that looks crisp and clean and sounds like that is not easy to achieve. So fair play to you. You listen to that track and you want more. You want to hear more of it. You know what I mean? I feel like keep giving me more of that. I like that. Yeah. I'm bought into it. So what's your next sort of after that? Because that's the time we're doing this interview, that's the first one you've dropped onto Spotify. So have you got a plan to release other music and of a different sort of tempo or vibe?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, George probably best to tell you a little bit more about the music that we're bringing out.
Well, it's like Jamie said at the beginning. Sheets is actually quite different to our other stuff. Actually, we've got another single we'd like to release in about a month's time. We're looking at sort of mid to late July to release that, which is a lot more. We'd call it a bit of a summer, more of a party tune.
Yeah,
which we're looking forward to releasing. And then a few months after that, we've actually got a mostly recorded now 5-track EP coming out in about September.
Right. Okay.
I would say.
Yeah.
Depending on finishing it, because the situation.
That's been an ordeal.
Yeah, we decided to record an EP 2 weeks before the pandemic.
Yeah, so, great, isn't it? Yeah, lots of things like that happened, didn't there? Yeah, wonderful thing, that pandemic.
Yeah, so that has definitely hindered us, but
yeah, it's been a negative, but it's also been I feel I have a flip side to it. It's also been a massive positive for a lot of negative for live events and stuff like that. But I think what it's forced a lot of people to do, especially artists, is to sit down, take stock of where they're at, what they're doing, what they want to release, and things like this, using, I know it would go on the radio, but using things like Zoom to connect with artists. If a lot of artists I'm talking to over the last few weeks, and that's one reason why I've done it, is they've got time. Yeah. Whereas normally you try to get people to have a chat about what they're doing, where they're up to. So people are going, yeah, go on, and we'll do a bit of an interview because we've got time and we're looking at this. So do you think there's some positives out of the COVID?
I think for us, the way that we kind of go about our kind of songwriting process as a kind of group is that we'll all kind of, often do our own bits, upload it to like a shared drive and kind of almost work on it from our own locations. Mm-hmm. So the whole kind of lockdown thing hasn't really hindered our kind of, creative process at all. You probably agree, wouldn't you, boys?
Mm.
Yeah, totally. Like Jay said, so we all live in very different areas. So for us to get together and actually kind of sit down and write music is pretty much impossible if we wanted to do it consistently. So yeah, we've just got a shared drive, and one of us will record an idea, put it in the shared, and just say, look, it's on there, do what you like with it, and see where we go. But the other good thing about that is that all three of us have wildly different tastes in music and wildly different influences and kind of the things that we do and the things that we listen to. And that kind of gives the music a bit of a unique blend of kind of where it comes from. So like vocally, I'm hugely influenced by people like George Michael. He's like one of my absolute heroes, George Michael, Michael Jackson, those kind of guys vocally. But then Jamie and George have got completely different kind of music tastes, and the things they listen to are completely different.
Yeah, and there's a couple of things coming out, because there's a few people I've spoken to, and there's some similarities in what you're talking about. You need diversity in a band. If you're all the same, it'd be pretty damn boring. If you was all into George Michael, and you'd all end up, you'd producing bloody Wham singles and stuff like that, wouldn't you? Do you know what I mean? Because you'd go on and go with that vibe. You go, oh, yeah, let's do this. George did a great sound with it. But if someone's into something else, you know, a bit of hard rock or heavy or whatever it is, then you will have a different. So, all right then, Jamie, what's your influence then? If he's George Michael and Michael Jackson, well, that's banging, isn't it? It's really good. What about you, Jamie? What's your influences?
So I really like all that kind of like British sort of indie, you know, the sort of real classics like the Arctic Monkeys, you know, and obviously more recently things like Bombay Bicycle Club, you know, Pure Cinema Club, that sort of thing there, that sort of real sort of, you know, British indie. And then obviously in the last few years, there's been some really, really good sort of American indie bands like Hippocampus.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of, that myself and George really, really like. So yeah, certainly that that sort of guitar-driven melodic sort of idea and music is what my sort of my go-to is.
Yeah,
with a you know a smidgen of kind of synths and things like that. Bit of a throwback to the 80s, but I'll say I'm fairly similar to George. But you know, George, what sort of thing are you into these days?
So I'm massively into sort of Tame Impala at the minute. Peach Pit, like you said, Hippocampus. I was at one time completely obsessed with Coldplay about 5 years ago, which I think has actually influenced a lot of what I do these days as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, hugely into sort of 80s, that sort of 80s ballad sounds. Your sort of Crowded House, bars and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Huge influence, especially for things like the keyboard. Like Jamie just said, the keyboard sounds and those sort of tracks are absolutely incredible. And I think it's something that people really are bringing back into the sound of music these days. You can sort of replicate that, but put your own spin on it, your own style on it. Then I think
that's how music evolves. And yeah, there's nothing wrong with music, but you put in a bit of a electronic synth or whatever on stuff, because there's some amazing tracks right from the 70s right through, and wonderful. And I've got to say, George, you have got a bit of, now he's talking about George Michael, you've got a bit of a George Michael look about him, hasn't he? Eh? Or is that me? He's got a beard. Yeah, he's got a vibe.
I'll be there. Terminal 5.
Pardon?
I'll be there, Terminal 5.
It's got the vibe going. And I'll tell you what, it's also quite interesting, and there's more bands doing what you're doing. There's a band that, I can name a few bands. There's one up in Scotland, and they don't live in the same place. And I think that's more, way back in, music has changed so much. Bands, the way people consume music, is the album dead, all the rest of it. But I think the way bands form now and collaborate is totally different, especially with younger bands. At one time, you would have all gone to the same college, lived in the same street, and got together. Do you know what I mean? So, the Beatles, for example, all lived in the same place, didn't they? And practiced in their dad's house and the toilet and stuff like that. And I've got a couple of bands that collaborate remotely, like you guys do. So,
well, that's a really strange thing. So we actually met at college to all study music about 10 years ago.
Right.
But for 10 years, we never did any music together. Right. We just sort of hung around. We've been like best friends for 10 years, but it never even crossed our minds to maybe sort of sit down, put our heads together and make some music until one day we were out, just because we don't get to see each other that often anymore, because like I said, we all live in different places, and we all just sort of met up and just said, look, it's completely possible and completely feasible for us to make some music, so why don't we just go and do it? That's something we all love.
And that 10-year break might be right, because you've matured, you've got different life experiences. So for me, we don't know, because it never happened. If you start producing music 10 years ago, you might not still be doing it now, and you might not have been producing. You wouldn't have been producing what you're producing now. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it might have been to your advantage as a band, as a group, to have that 10 years to get to where you are now, because the first track you developed, I really like, and it's very accomplished. So well done to you. It's not it sounds good, it sounds right, it sounds commercial, it sounds like it should be on the charts or on a show or the back into some advert or something. Do you know what I mean? It's got a good vibe to it. So well done.
Brilliant.
Cool. Wonderful. So so you've got there, that was the other thing I was going to talk about, and I've noticed it with a lot of bands I've been talking to, and looking how music's changed. You've released a track, then you're going to release another track, and then you're going to release an EP. And I think gone are the days where bands go, do you know what, we're going to release 15 tracks and all together on an album, and we're gonna I think it's ended that. Did you?
Yeah, definitely. I think you know, certainly from, again, just looking at the artists, the new emerging artists that we kind of like listening to, it is that kind of constant kind of flow and that constant kind of delivery of music every few months, you know. And you know, it's like you say, I think it's the culture that we live in now, isn't it? You know, it's no longer a culture, I think, of music of you know, kind of waiting 2 years for an album to come out, and then, you know, sitting down for an hour and a half and really kind of taking it in, the whole thing. You know, I think that the culture we live in now is much more, you know, accustomed to, you know, short, you know, smaller kind of projects, smaller ideas.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. And if people listen to me previous interviews, you'll probably hear the same thing. And us as presenters or you know, on the radio station, we're constantly looking at what's coming out, what's on social media, what's been released on, what's the latest release on Spotify and iTunes. We're constantly looking for that. So if as a band releases an album, say last October, 15 great tracks on it, we'd have probably been aware of that in October. And by the time we get to now, we're going, we've forgotten about them. They've gone. Do you know what I mean? Unless they keep releasing singles off that album, they've gone out of our consciousness. And I think that's what one of the driving forces. You're going on to things like, I use Spotify as an example. You're going on to Spotify and you click on a track, and you get, unless you select something else, you go on a whole journey, don't you? It doesn't, you know, if you played, I don't know, if you went on now and played a George Michael Wham track, just as a track, you wouldn't end up with the full out. You'd end up with another track. So the systems that are in place are forcing you down a different route anyway.
Well, and I think it's just kind of the way in which the world kind of works now. Everyone just wants everything quicker, like more quickly. They want more of it, and it's just kind of like no one really has time to sit down and listen to a 15-track album anymore.
No.
As sad as that sounds, because obviously there are albums from decades ago that do have 15 tracks on them, or, you know, maybe even less, that are absolutely incredible.
Yes.
But who has time to sit down, or actually who has the patience to sit down and listen to a 15-track album in its entirety?
You're right, because back in the day, because I'm of a certain age, you put a cassette on in your car, right? Cassettes in cars, yeah. And if you had a cassette in your car, you were doing all right. You couldn't fast forward that. You had to listen through it. Do you know what I mean? You had to listen. Oh, you had to guess. So, and same with with vinyl. You listen to it unless you're going to get up and change the needle and put it further on. You'll listen to it. That's what you did. It wasn't as available. Whereas the amount of times you get in a car with someone, they put the pod, you know, iPod on or whatever they're listening to, or Spotify or anything, and a track will come on, and then you think, oh yeah, I like this. Boom, it's gone. Hang on, where have you gone with that? Fast forwarded it. I don't like that. 5 or 6 tracks later, you start listening to one. You think, Jesus Christ, the journey's ended. And it's funny. I've not listened to a full album for years, and I discovered early ZZ Top the other day after watching a documentary, and I went back to their very first album, and I can't believe I did this, I actually sat and listened to the whole first album, every track from start to finish. And having said that now, I don't remember the last time I ever did that. Don't even bands that I like, I don't. But I want to discover their music and where they come from, the roots. And I was intrigued, so I listened to the full album. But you're right. Yeah, I think albums are dead. I think they're dead. So
that's it. Who's got time to listen? Who's got time to make them?
I think the thing as well with new artists like us, people will make their mind up very quickly. So I think it's important to have that single straight away. They can make their mind up and they can listen to that and then follow it up with an EP. So that's just 5 tracks.
Right.
Likely these people will listen to probably 2 or 3 of those tracks and they'll make their mind up straight away. Whereas an album early on, it could just fall on deaf ears so quickly, couldn't it?
Yeah, you just said it, Kate. You listen to that ZZ Top album because you had an adverse interest in ZZ Top. And that's it. I'll listen to full albums now. I'm a real big fan of the kind of later Ben Howard stuff, and the kind of latest album. I'll listen to that from start to finish. Absolutely love it. And that for me is because I've got an interest in it. If you're just kind of genuinely, trying to listen to some new music, again, I wouldn't sit down and listen to a new album. If I get like a new artist advertised on Apple Music or something, I'll listen to like the top songs or the latest thing they've done. I won't sit and listen to their album they've just released.
Correct.
Because I haven't got that initial interest in them, and that I think is where the culture's changed.
In some respects, it's very sad because I can still remember the feeling of back in the day, getting an album that one of your favourite bands had released, or someone said, listen to this album, it's wonderful, and pouring it on and absorbing it all. Yeah, because that's the only way you could absorb it. You couldn't just get it through anyway. You played what you had. And it's great that we've got this wealth of music now and the availability. But I think there's also something's been lost in that, because what you do back in the day, it's dead easy to create music. Anyone can create music now in the bedroom or whatever. I'm not saying it's good, but any idiot can do it. Yeah, I could go and produce something now and put it out there. So there's a lot of crap out there. And back in the day, which is a bit different to now, is I'd go to someone and they'd go, have you listened to this album? Have you listened to this artist? You've got to listen to this artist. They're amazing. And that's how it spread. You know, that's how popularity for a band spread. I remember a mate of mine back years ago saying, I'm telling you, this band are going to be massive. And it was U2, you know, before they'd made it massive. And it's like, yes, they were. So my question then, there's a question at the end of that rambling, is, so that's how we used to pass music on. How do you think people are passing it on? How are people discovering music now? What do you think? What do you think, George?
Playlists, I think, are absolutely huge. So I get all my new music from Apple recommended playlists or Spotify recommended playlists.
Yeah.
And they have some sort of formula where they'll see what you're listening to and what you've downloaded and what you've streamed so many times, and they'll just recommend new artists. And quite often these new artists will be quite small artists. And I think off the back of that, I'll then screenshot that, send it on to Jamie and Lewis and say, I'll check these guys out. And then they might tell a couple of their friends or whatever else. And that's how I think social media and things like, the new playlists that come out, I think is one of the biggest ways that new artists can spread. Personally.
Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah, it makes sense. It's the modern way of doing it rather than it being very slow. It's fast, isn't it? It's quite a quick thing.
That's it. And if you can get your music on one of those playlists, it's a massive bonus, because once your music's on one of those playlists, the chances are is that people are going to come across it and listen to it, and then, like George just said, they're going to pass it on to people that they know. And if you can reinforce that with a good social media presence, then really that's the ticket. But there's an element of luck in all of that as well, and not to mention the fact that you've got to make good music.
Oh yeah, you've got to start, and that goes basically beside. And I'm going to do a bit. I think I'm going to do a little bit of a blog about it, because there's some basic things that bands, I believe, need to do. One of them, you've got to be good, haven't you? If you're not good, people can go somewhere else. You know what I mean? If you're producing stuff that's no, I get sent loads of music to the station. Artists submit the music, and I press play and I listen for a couple of seconds, and I go, "Ooh, no, I don't like that." It's gone. Yeah, bin it.
Yeah.
If it grabs me, I go, "Oh, right, okay, I'll listen a bit more. Right, well, I've got the station done." So yeah, it's got to be good. It's got to grab people virtually straight away. I think you're right. Social media is really important. You've got everybody on all the platforms. And like we said at the start, I think your name's important. If you start coming up with everything wants everything quick. So I'll give you an example. I won't mention the band's name. I went to see a band in on year. Thought they were brilliant. What's your name? Here's a sticker with the name of the band. Goes away the next day. Gets a band in the States. And I'm like, hang on a minute, that's not even them. So I would have, or the general public would have just flipped and moved on to something else, because they've not got time. But because I've seen them and really wanted to connect with them, I must have spent 10 or 15 minutes trying to find them on different social media platforms until eventually I got them. Now, it was only because I wanted to connect with them I found them. If I'd have been someone in the audience as a listening, thinking these are great, I'd have gone and found this other band and gone, I'm not interested. I'll move on to the next one. So I think it's vital that you get everything. Everything has to line up, doesn't it? People like videos, they like the backstory. And I personally believe, and I know a lot of bands don't do it now because you're all into your social media, but I do believe you should have a website as well. And that might seem old-fashioned, but I think it's a place where people can come to. You can go, this is our link, and it's got all your social media, it's got everything on it. So you've probably, I don't even know, you've probably not even got a website, you've probably not even thought about a website, have you?
That's not something we ventured into at the moment, no. But we're very much kind of on the, we're at the start of kind of whatever this could be. So, I mean, we've got all your kind of like standard socials. Instagram, we use quite heavily, and we use that quite a lot to promote the music, which is quite good. and there's almost a social element to kind of Apple Music and Spotify as well, which they're two of the main places where we put our music, and just ensure that everyone can get hold of it. And I think YouTube can sometimes be underestimated as a social platform, not just a media platform as well, because if something gets a following on YouTube, then really that's where people talk about kind of things that they come across quite a bit on YouTube. So that can be classed as kind of a social platform as well. And it's interesting you say about music videos, because for me, it doesn't really bother me, but I had a conversation with George the other day, and George was kind of saying it's really, really important that we put out a music video, because if you really look at the kind of comparative stats to kind of what people consume on YouTube, if you just have kind of like a blanket kind of picture, then audio, it has a third of the views of what a music video will have.
He's right. He's right. He's bang on. And I know there's a lot of time invests, and I as a consumer, as a listener, because I just love music. I love all sorts of music, apart from jazz. I can't stand jazz, but that's fine. But I like all sorts of music, you know, and I'm really interested in music. And sometimes it's great to just pop a video on and watch a video. And I think, it's a different. You're in different dynamics, aren't you? If you go to Instagram, to Facebook, or whatever, you've got a different set of people viewing it. I mean, I've done some tests last couple of weeks on some interviews. I put interview on YouTube, and it had, like, I don't know, 50 or 60 views in a 24 hours or something, which is nothing, is it? Puts a video, the same video on Facebook as a Facebook video. So I had to upload it. It took ages to upload it, and that within 24 hours I had 300 hits. So you've got to play the system as well, whatever you're doing. But I do think videos make a big difference. I do, and even if it's just you all singing and that's been videoed, and you know, you're lip syncing or whatever, I think it does make a difference. I do, from a consumer's point of view. So I think George is right.
Well done, George.
Told you. See, he wants to be in it, Club Tropicana. He wants to redo that. It'd be brilliant.
Are you wearing a Club Tropicana shirt?
No, this is a Sandals Resort T-shirt, mate.
Sandals? That's for old people like me. That.
I've never been there. I just found this.
After. Great. Yeah. There's no kids, is there? No kids at Sandals. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
You gotta go there. Hey?
Expensive.
It doesn't matter how much it costs. There's no kids there. That's like worth everything now. Do you know what I mean? It's got to be worth a lot of money now. Oh, wonderful. Right. So, where can people? Because you talked about your social media. What's the best way to find you? What are all your handles on each platform?
Just all the major kind of streaming platforms. You know, as Lewis mentioned, your Apple Music, Spotify, and YouTube, the three that, you know, we kind of push the most, because, you know, they tend to be the three most popular, and, you know, our experiences. But yeah, I think you know, the best thing to do if you're going to put a message out there is just you know, try and follow on the social media, because that's where the kind of latest updates will be. You know, it's kind of you know, the latest kind of releases and stuff. It'll all be kind of published through there in the first instance. And, you know, again, we might look at you know, other avenues a bit later on down the line. But in a minute, just those social media channels and you know, your mainstream services.
What's the handle for the Instagram, George?
Bubye.20, isn't it?
Right.
Because Bubye was taken not by another band, just by something else.
Some lunatic.
We'll flash it up.
There you go.
Yeah, well, you say this. I mean, we've talked quite a lot about this kind of band name, and we decided on this about 6 months ago. And we've had, until we've actually you know, really sort of like started getting the project together, recording, getting stuff released. We've been refreshing Apple Music, checking that no one's taken it, and it's been like a kind of, you know, it's been like a nervy 3 or 4 months, isn't it? While we've been in a lockdown, kind of you know, hoping that no one else is going to take it. Because once you decided on it, you know, you kind of got to stick with it. So it's worked out okay, as long as people can pronounce it.
Well, it came, and I've got it now, but it came up. I've just gone onto Instagram and added you on Dougie Stone Radio and on mine, and it came up straight away. So the top.
Perfect.
Must have known, you see. Must have been listening to us the phone. As soon as I went to him, put B in, you came up. So there's something going on, isn't there? something shady's happening. But yeah, he came straight to the top. I've got that. We've locked it in. We'll put that in the show notes as well. So yeah, it's what I also sometimes ask. Well, you talk about before how the creative side starts, and you sort of have an idea and pour it up to a shared drive, and then you work on it from there. So as the final, I interviewed a band the other week, and they said, so say you, Lewis, had the initial idea of this, you decide how it was the whole project sounded. Is that how you work, or do you mash it up a bit?
I think we're quite open-minded with it. So we've actually had times in the past where somebody will come up with an idea, and if someone else doesn't like it, we don't agree on something. If we don't all agree on the same thing, then we'll scrap it effectively. Because it's a democracy being in a band, isn't it? And I think you can't leave out certain people's opinions. What we'll often do is, let's say Lewis has an initial idea or Jamie has an initial idea. They might have 1 minute of a song, or 1 minute 30 seconds of a song, or just an intro, or just a verse. They'll stick it up, and then maybe Jamie will grab that later on, and he'll add the chorus, or he'll add a keyboard line here or a guitar line there. Yeah. We just cycle that over and over and over and over and over again until we get a song. Yeah. And then, like Amy said, we might sit down and say, right, let's strip some bits back. Let's not have that bit there. That's too busy. Let's not have that bit there. And then we all agree on it at the end.
Sometimes though, we can get to a point where we actually start off by getting an idea, really kind of fleshing it out and coming up with something that's quite in depth and quite, sort of full on and almost finished. And then it gets to the point where actually one of us or a couple of us will just turn around and say, do you know what, this idea is just a bit rubbish. Like, we're just like, and sometimes it can be soul destroying, because you can spend weeks, months, like trying to chisel out an idea. Yeah. And it can't really be any good. And I don't know about the other two, but for me, I know when we've come up with something that's good within 10, 15 seconds. Yeah. Of listening to it. So I know if Jamie puts an idea on the shared area, and I listen to it, within 10, 15 seconds, I'll hear something in my head and I'll go, yeah, that's good. We can do something with that.
Yeah. Yeah. When it works, it's usually very, very quick. But I can't think of too many examples of stuff we've written that have taken us kind of months and months of playing around with. Usually it's from the initial person putting up an idea, someone else will get the kind of vibe from it. And it'll be done within a couple of days. Just whenever we can get round to it, really. But done very, very quickly. So, but yeah, there's no kind of like none of us have really got the kind of final say as to, right, this is finished. We're not going to do any more to it. It's very much he'll wait for everyone to get their ideas out, and then one of us might kind of do a mix of it, and then another person might listen to that and think, well, maybe we could just tweak that. And it's very much kind of, as George said, democratic.
So while you've been talking about that, my head's been spinning a bit thinking about that. So you've obviously got a group, or you've got some music that you've canned that you didn't think's good enough, and have you kept it?
Yeah. So we've got a Google Drive with 20, 25 songs on there.
Right.
And we're looking to release this year 6. Do you know what I mean? So, and I would say of those 2025, I would say a good, at least 10 of them will never go anywhere.
Yeah. Well, they might do. That's why I'm listening to that. I'm thinking you for whatever reason, you initially thought it was a great idea. Now it's not a great idea, and we're going to part that. And quite rightly, you're releasing the stuff you believe should be released. That makes sense. If you've got 10 tracks and the bottom one, you won't release the bottom 10th one if it's the least liked. There's no point, is there? Because you want to release your good stuff. But there could be a point in the future where you go back to that drive and go, remember this when we canned it? This is great. Let's just release. I don't know. I'm just thinking that's how my head works. That could be valuable stuff in the future. You could refer to that for other work, other projects.
We've spoken about recycling it before. So we've said, well, that song that we didn't want to release, that we've now put to the bottom of the list, actually, that synth line in the verse, we could put that into a new song. So we can just strip bits out of it and sort of recycle it, because it's all stuff we've written. So not to say they won't go anywhere, but I think we could definitely take from that and create like a sort of a Frankenstein of songs that we hate.
Oh, it sounds like Eddie King's show. Sorry, Eddie. The Frankenstein. No, I'm only joking. He does a bloody good show, I tell you. No, it's really interesting. I'm having listened to your first track. I'm now waiting to listen to some. I want to listen to some of your other work, definitely, and I definitely want to share that with people, because if that's your first track, then I should imagine your other stuff's just going to be as good, and it's just going to keep evolving. So I'm looking forward to your next project, the next thing coming out in July. And at the time of doing this, it's probably out. So
well, yeah, let's hope so. With any luck, yeah.
Well, it will be, because I'm doing these in advance, and I've got a back catalogue of interviews. So I've not canned any yet, so don't worry, guys. This is a good interview. This will go out. Oh, brilliant! So, yeah, that chance meeting then, and you coming back together, that's quite interesting. And I just want to revisit that again. So, how did that? You sort of went over it, but the conversation, whose idea initial was that?
I have a vivid memory of visiting Lewis one time, and I'd just kind of been working on something on my own, never really intended to go anywhere. Very much just like almost like a backing track piece of music. And I was showing Lewis, and I said, right, have a listen to this, see what you think of it. I'm a big fan of Elbow, so it was basically just like, like an Elbow rip-off. And I was loving it. I thought it was really nice. And Lewis, in his, in where he's living at the time, just started singing over it, and it sounded amazing. And I was like, oh wow, this sounds awesome. I was like, you've got to record that for me, because I might want to just keep this, show my mates and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I believe from then, we started having a couple of ideas, and then yeah, I think myself and George started talking about it, and yeah, we just kind of went from there. I'm not sure the kind of when the sort of breakthrough moment was, where we said, let's start this. But
I think it was in Wetherspoons.
Everybody better?
Oh, Spoons. It was in Spoons. There you go. That's it. Yeah. And one of you must have gone to Lou, been gone about 20 minutes, because they're always at the top of the hill, aren't they? As far away. And then by the time you got, you decided to do it.
Pretty much.
Wetherspoons. It's got a lot to answer for, hasn't it? Wetherspoons.
Mate, that's where all the best ideas are, isn't it? Just sat at a table at, what is it, table 83?
It was, yeah. Well, I think we were in the St Albans Wetherspoons, and we just ordered some pictures of, I don't know, some girly drink. And I think we'd said, why are we not making music? I think, Jamie, you'd even mentioned,
love it,
like you'd done a little guitar thing or something like that. And I think that's where it birthed from. We said, why are we not? Why wouldn't we do something with it? Like,
why not give it a go?
What we do, really?
That'd be a great title for your EP, wouldn't it? Table 83.
That was one of the actual.
It was one of the tracks.
That was on the short list. Yeah.
Yeah, it was on the cards. That. But the thing is that I think, to be honest with you, I'm quite passive, and so unless someone kind of says, like, we're going to do it, let's kind of do it, and kind of riles me up a little bit, I'll just kind of sit there and kind of let things happen. And the thing is, George, when he gets a bee in his bonnet about something, mate, he doesn't stop. Like, honestly, he's like the juggernaut. I've
got that vibe already, don't worry. I've weighed him up. I bet he's a nightmare when you go out for a drink as well, ain't you?
Mate, it's horrific.
I can tell. I can just tell he'd be a nightmare to go out for a drink. Yeah, unbelievable. But yeah, good party animal. Get George's on there. George is coming out. Here we go. Yeah, is it like that? I bet it is, isn't it?
There's no in between with George. It's either like 2 or 3 or 5 million. There's no kind of like. There's nothing remotely grey in his world. It's either we're doing it or we're not.
I'm black. My wife says that you're either all in or all out. Yeah, and that's it. So if I have the drink and get absolutely annihilated, or I don't bother. Do you know what I mean? What's the point? Yeah. But it's like people. There's it's seriously like someone said, "Do you want?" Who is it? Liam Gallagher, I think, says it. But wife will say, "Why don't you just have one?" We go, "One? Why do you want to have? What's the point of having? What is the point of having one drink? What is the point of having one drink? Hey, if I'm not having a drink, I'm either getting smashed or I'm having nothing, and that's how I work.
Yeah.
Nothing winds George up more than that.
Yeah. When I see Jamie having one beer.
What's the point?
Yeah.
It's all have calories for no benefit. You're having all lot of calories. You might as well have a couple of Mars bars because you're just putting a lot of calories in you. Nothing, have you? It's like teasing you with something, isn't it? It's like wafting a steak in front of your face and taking it away. What's the point?
Well, it's just that artificial happiness, mate. So.
I like George. He's all right, George. But having said that, I can't drink a lot. I only have to have 2 pints and I'm smashed. But I carry on.
Yeah, so is George. He's only 4'4", so.
Give me a WKD and I'm gone.
Excellent. I love it. I love it. That's brilliant. And that's why it's good to talk to bands to get to know them a bit more about what they're about and what's behind how we got together, which I think it's been wonderful. I've really enjoyed talking to you. I really have. Is there anything you'd like to add? Because I think the time is zooming on. I think we're coming to a natural end to the procedures. And what I'll do, we'll finish the show off with a track again, and then people can enjoy it and go away and find your stuff. So when I was asking before, so all your social medias will be under, you've obviously point two. So is Facebook Bubye as well, or is that?
We don't do a Facebook at the moment.
Right, okay. I don't blame you anyway, Facebook.
Yeah. We're literally just, so our social is just on Instagram, and then we upload everything that we upload to Apple Music and Spotify or Deezer or whatever. Anything that gets distributed there will also be distributed to our YouTube page. Yeah. Which you can find under the same handle. So just for clarity, so if you want to find us on Instagram or on YouTube, it's at Bubye20, or .20, sorry.
Yeah.
Go and find us on there, have a look, because that is where you will see firsthand what we're going to be doing, what we're going to be bringing out. And we kind of allude to things through stories. And then when things are kind of close to coming out, we'll put up a little post and things like that. So do go and check it out. If you do like the music, just make sure that you have a look on our socials there.
Yeah, I definitely will. And that's interesting because it's all about stories. Everything's good. Music's going to be good, but people want something more than that, don't they? Just the noise and the latest track. They want to identify with the people, or interesting graphics or whatever it is. Absolutely brilliant. Well, I'm looking forward to your latest release and seeing what it's about, and we'll be spinning it on the station. It's been great to chat to you. I'm going to finish off. I'm going to let you go. I'm going to finish off with the track so everyone can enjoy that again, and then hopefully in the next few weeks we'll be playing even more. But really, thanks very much for your time, and we'll be watching your progress as the weeks go on.
Excellent.
Very much.
Cheers, Coach.
Did you enjoy that? Hope you did. Hope you're still watching. If you are, thanks very much. Please subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Come and check us out, DougieStoneRadio.com, or say Alexa, open internet radio, and you'll get the station. The interviews go out on a Thursday morning, 10 a.m. whilst I'm doing them, but they're all on SoundCloud. If you check out the website, you'll find podcasts, you'll find blogs, and everything else in between. If you're an emerging artist, go to DougieStoneRadio.com. Drop us your music via the link that says artist submission. Keep it Dougie Stone Radio.